Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Constant Ikoku.
Good morning, Charles. How are you today?
I'm as good as can be, Constance. Good morning to you too.
Okay, Yolanda and Somi, I hope you guys are doing great as well.
Yes,
Very
wonderful.
well, thank you.
Good
morning.
Okay, to look at the papers with us this morning, we have Emmanuel Aziken. He is a columnist with Vanguard newspaper and former political editor. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. After prolonged delay, missed deadlines, Port Harcourt Refinery begins operation. Jubilant Tinubu directs NNPC to reactivate Warri Kaduna refineries. National Oil Company started production with lowly 1.4 million liters of petrol. Kyari says President's pressure made FID possible, discloses 70% capacity reached. I mean, finally, after years of targets, the plant has a capacity of 60,000 barrels per day and is key to energy security in Nigeria. I mean, what a significant turning point for the country. This is expected to boost production alongside the Dangote refinery. I mean, Emmanuel, competition is good, isn't it? That's what the country needs at this point.
Surely the country needs competition, and one must congratulate the President and the NNPC for bringing the Port Harcourt refinery to life at this point. But it's like a drop in the ocean. What initially a presidential aide had said that about 10 million liters of petrol was going to come out, but the NNPC corrected it, just as the This Day report said, that is just 1.4 million liters, which is about 28 trucks of fuel, 50,000 liters of truck that is going to come out, which is just about 2.8% of estimated national consumption. We welcome this, but my take and my challenge is that as the President has directed, if the other three refineries in the country come on stream, the amount of crude required daily, including the Dangote refinery, will get up to probably about 900 million barrels per day, 900,000 barrels per day, 900,000 barrels per day, which will greatly reduce our export earnings. So, and that is why the government needs to energize the non-oil sector. It is interesting that yesterday or the day before, that it was said that the non-oil sector is producing, grew our GDP to 3.4% as it were. Most of the GDP came from the non-oil sector. So that is, but significantly, the income from foreign exchange mostly came from oil. So that is why we need to fine-tune the processes in the non-oil sector so that we can get more money, foreign exchange, from the non-oil sector.
Very good points raised, Emmanuel. Yes, I think yesterday was agriculture that had the most or contributed the most to the GDP, over 20%. Charles, let's come to you. When you look at the story, a lot of people are a bit cautious because we have had failures and missed targets in the past. You want to see consistency over the following months. You don't want to see a situation whereby in 2 or 3 months we hear that they've gone back to zero and there's nothing happening. So it's key that this production is continued over the next 1 year at least to stabilize, production in the country. And of course, in addition to other refineries, the Warri and the Kaduna one as well.
Of course, like I say, it's the note of cautious optimism. Let's be optimistic, but of course, cautious in our optimism. Now, let's start with the Dangote thing. Before Dangote came on stream, we heard that once they come on, at that time, petrol was selling for about 890-something naira per liter. And then we hoped that once Dangote started production, it will go down to as low as 500, maybe back to 150-something that we were used to. But on the other hand, the prices went up. So, the hopes of Nigerians were effectively shattered. Now that we have the prices stabilizing and we have a supply as well, we're also hoping that this time around, with production from the national oil producer, we would be having more output. That's more oil in the market. Although, unfortunately, the NNPC at the moment can only meet about 2.8% of the national requirement. Right. That's a drop in the water, but at least it is something to go by. So, for us Nigerians, we're just hoping that the more oil comes in, the cheaper it will become. That will definitely be what we'll be hoping for. And it is also heartwarming that the Warri Refinery and the others would also be revived. I guess the president has been a lot under pressure as a result of his pronouncement on fuel subsidy. So he has that responsibility of redeeming his image, ensuring that this removal of subsidy would actually kick in free market forces and increase production, as well as drop the prices of petroleum products in the market. Let's
see whether those expectations are met in the long term. The Punch newspaper, Bello due in court today as ex-governor reports to EFCC. He's been detained by the anti-graft agency and faces 16 counts. The former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello was declared wanted by the Economic and Financial Commission in April. Since then, he has been unable to be arraigned. Well, finally, the man that seemed to be on the run has turned himself in. He's currently in detention at an EFCC facility in Abuja. You have to wonder, though, what was the hide and seek about all these months, Emmanuel?
Bello turned himself in yesterday after the suit by some 16 states, including the Kogi state government, to overturn the law establishing the EFCC was nullified by the Supreme Court. That removed every legal opportunity for him to escape trial by the EFCC. Well, it is interesting. You know, Bello is called the White Lion. And I watch documentaries a lot, and I get to see lions in their old ages. Lions that die miserably. They look very tired. They are preyed upon by opportunistic hyenas and all that. So that's what one was thinking was going to happen to Bello. But it is interesting that Bello still has is not yet an old lion. He was able to walk into the EFCC facility yesterday, and we'll see how he's going to prove himself. It is remarkable that he has he has the infrastructure of the state in Kogi State backing him. So he may be able to stand whatsoever, let him come and give account. Mark you, there are also reports, and one would like the authorities to clear the air concerning issues about political victimization that have surrendered I don't want to call Travis, his situation and circumstances. Meanwhile, I see no reason why Bello should have taken this route. He should have, immediately after he stepped down, just as most other governors, he should have just surrendered himself.
So, I mean, you know, now that he's in EFCC net, the ball is in their court. They have to prove that he's guilty. They better have a watertight case. They all have him now.
Well, I would disagree to say that this is victimization. The allegations against the former governor are reaching almost 200 billion naira. And honestly, that is a stark amount of money to joke around with. The EFCC does not provide, from what I've seen, does not provide very, very strict punishments for people that are convicted for misappropriation of funds and fraud. And so I'm hoping that they will really strengthen their internal affairs and bring offenders to book. You know, it's funny that Kogi State was the institutor of the suits against the EFCC and other anti-graft agencies. And so seeing that, I'm almost certain that that was a ploy by the governor to avoid being brought to book. So I'm really counting on the EFCC to ensure that people don't get away with fraud in Nigeria. Well,
they have to prove, you know, prove, you know, in court that they are actually guilty. Let's look at The Guardian this morning. Mbaram sub-IGR from 37.4 billion naira to 144.7 billion naira. The Enugu State Governor Peter Mba, just presented his 2025 budget to the State Assembly, showing remarkable improvement in funding targets. I mean, this highlights the importance of internally generated revenue. Many states struggle here, so this is a good example from Enugu State for other states in the Federation to follow, Emmanuel. Well,
it's Governor Mba continues to give us a good, continues to be a shining light in good governance. The remarkable growth in IGR from 37 to 147 is remarkable, and it puts to question, what was the immediate past governor doing? And more than even the IGR, I'm also excited by the provision the governor has made for education. Consistently, since he has been there, he has been putting, I believe, the highest proportion of funding for education. In this budget, I think he's putting about 33% of the state's budget on education. And the other day we were here when I think somebody were talking about his provision for smart schools, to provide smart schools in 263 schools across all electoral wards in the state. Governor Mba continues to be, I must commend him for this budget and the projection. Even next year, according to that budget projection, for next year, internal generated revenue is estimated to be about 500 billion naira, towards his goal of making Enugu State one of the top 3 GDP states in the country.
Right, let's look at the Daily Sun. The president of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Mr. Festus Osifo, says that workers may withhold their services from their states when they are not paid the minimum wage. They are threatening indefinite strike in states not implementing the minimum wage. We do know that this has been a problem across the country. It is evident that while an agreement was reached on a minimum wage across the Federation, some states still struggle to pay. Charles, it's a problem. And you cannot fault them if they say they're going to withdraw their services.
Yeah, this has been going on for a long time. Anytime the minimum wage is increased, we always find ourselves in this situation. Some states can pay higher, some states can't pay. Some states have been owing salaries, so asking them to pay a new minimum wage now becomes a major issue. Now, this is dependent on several factors. One, the fact that some states have a higher income, higher internally generated revenue. Exactly.
Yes.
And
we're
then,
just
of course,
talking about Enugu State. Yes.
Sure. And then there are others who, because of the fact that they are oil-producing states, have a higher percentage of what comes from the federal government. And of course, you also have some states that have outrightly irresponsible governments. And so, when this happens, you have the ones who are incapable, or who seem to be incapable of paying this minimum wage. And of course, trust the trade unions, whether it's the Nigerian Labour Congress, whether it's the Trade Union Congress, trust them. The next thing they would do is to threaten industrial action. But then the question is that, will the threat of industrial action actually prompt the states that are not paying or not able to pay? Is it actually going to prompt them to do what they are supposed to do? Well, that's the big question, but at least let them know that they are under pressure to deliver, so they definitely have to deliver one way or the other. Maybe just go to the government, federal government cap in hand, and ask for bailout, that like used to happen during the Buhari administration. They may just look for bailout and then pay.
Exactly. Let's look at The Guardian again. Can we pull up The Guardian? One other story there from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He says that some people wish him dead. You know, there were rumors that he has passed, but that has been debunked. And love him or hate him, he's someone that has served the country at the ripe age of 87. He deserves some credit and maybe some good wishes. Somi, what do you think?
Well, I definitely agree that the role that former President Olusegun Obasanjo played in the country cannot be disputed. I mean, from the military regime to the democratic regime. However, maybe he should step back a little bit and allow the new leaders lead as they deem fit, you know, just to avoid certain, because I've read different, you know, back and forth between him and the current president, and just, you know, different comments. However, I wish him a long life. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, he's a very vocal person. I don't think that would happen, him stepping back. You know, so let's watch and see. But a lot of people do wish him well. A couple of other stories from New Telegraph. New Telegraph, CUPP dismisses 3.46% GDP growth, slams NBS. There's also Cardoso, Nigeria to exit FATF grey list by Q2 2025, and then Senate admits error in process to sack CCT chairman. We also have Daily Independent this morning. Later, Tinubu mandates NNPCL to revive Warri Kaduna refineries. Also, new interest rate will hurt savings account holders. Federal government laments loss of 1.1 billion naira annually to malaria. And then experts raise the alarm over growing national debt. Let's look at the international headlines. Daily Graphic, all set for special voting on Monday. Ghana votes 2024. This is 10 days more to the voting. A vote is a prayer about the kind of world you want to live in. That's a quote from Reverend Raphael Wamok. You can't argue with that. It is a prayer. It is a summation of, you know, what you want to see in your country. If you vote, then that is what you want to see. You know, let's discuss that. Yolanda, what do you think about that thought from Ghana?
So with the news in Ghana and the elections upcoming, I think it's a very exciting process for any nation that is about to go through such electoral changes. But I think what needs to be looked at the moment and commended as well are the enhancements in technology and making it easy, you know, streamlining the voting process. So I also wanted to add that I had a point that I found very, very interesting at how there was inclusivity for essential workers to ensure that they are able to put in their votes as well. I know that some countries struggle with this, and, you know, including all their workers, all their citizens to be able to make a fair contribution to where the country is going.
All right, Citizen newspaper, government open to hack attack. According to reports, personal data of South Africans on any gov.za government domain is at risk of being hacked. If a country waged war on South Africa, the country could be taken down in 3 days, a cybersecurity expert has said. It also have identified weak points of areas that can be exploited to gain access to the system. This is a big headache for many countries, but not only countries, we also have companies and organizations that have to struggle or battle cybersecurity. It's scary to know that in South Africa, for instance, 3 days, the whole thing is done. Emmanuel, you know, what do you think about this?
The admission, this report is a special report by the Citizen, and it exposes the vulnerabilities of the infrastructure network, that's the IT network used by the South African government. And it's especially concerned is the Home Affairs Ministry, which says that it can be brought down. But what delights me is the admission by the Home Affairs Minister that they are aware of this and are looking into it. So being aware of it and studying how they can repair the damages is encouraging.
To iNewspaper, Netanyahu unveils Hezbollah ceasefire after a year of war. Both sides have agreed to end the conflict in Lebanon under a deal brokered by France and the United States of America. I mean, at last, a sigh of relief by many. We recall that nearly 2 months ago, Israel launched a ground invasion into Lebanon in response to rocket attack by militants from that country. I mean, this is good news, although many have been terribly affected. Yolanda.
Yes, this is 14 months into this war, and so many lives have been lost. Many humanitarian workers have lost their lives as well, affecting many families. So I believe that this is a positive step going to the future, and hopefully it will end in success.
Well, let's see how that goes. Financial Times, Trading partners warn of damage to U.S. as Trump pledges punitive tariffs. Mexico forces a trade war. Canada and China have reacted to what they are, seeing as punitive measures against different countries. Trump's tariff plans are consistent with his America policy, though. America first, that's what he said from day one. So this is not surprising, some coming from him. I think everyone was expecting, countries already bracing for a different presidency under Trump.
Yes, so Trump has no airs about telling everyone that he is a true capitalist. And so, like you said, I'm not surprised at this at all. And honestly, we should expect more of these kinds of measures from Trump.
It's going to be a trade war, isn't it, Charles?
Well, the other countries have also gone saber-rattling. Canada has actually outlined its own measures to retaliate, even though they are more conciliatory in their approach, knowing that they are next-door neighbors to the United States.
They are.
So they definitely will have to tread softly. As for China, they said something ominous, that a trade war is not going to do anybody any good. So what I have read between the lines is that, okay, whatever it is you're going to do, we also will definitely be retaliating. So at the end of the day, well, let's put it this way. When two elephants fight, it is the grass that will suffer. Yeah. So it is the Americans and the Chinese who will ultimately suffer, and definitely the rest of the world too would be caught in the spiral of that trade clash. As for the other country, Mexico, well, we've not heard anything from them, but then they've been in the line of Trump's fire, talking about illegal migrants crossing the Mexico-United States border. So Mexico will probably just lie down and take its punishment quietly. But for Canada and China, yes, definitely expect a reaction in different degrees.
Let's see whether Trump is able to bring those jobs home. That has been his intention. Emmanuel, let me just finish the last one and then I'll bring you in. Daily Mirror, okay. Labour's big breakfast plan, dawn of a new era. All primary school kids will be eligible for free food before classes start. This ensures that kids struggling to learn on empty stomach are taken care of. It's interesting that a highly developed country is where kids are going to school hungry. Well, they're trying to tackle it now. Emmanuel, in 30 seconds, please. Well,
I also like to say that a trade war between Canada and America will lead to the increase in gasoline prices in the United States, because the United States gets a substantial proportion of its oil supplies from Canada. Now, concerning the big breakfast plan by the Labour government, it's one of the ways I think the administration there is trying to suit the frayed nerves of the people there. And as the report did say, that a number of children are going to school quite hungry. And I would say that we started such a program in Nigeria. The APC government commendably started such a program, but along the way, it was eaten up by corruption. Corruption eroded that program, which drew a number of children back to the classrooms. Unfortunately, those children have left the classroom now.
All right, I'm afraid that's all we have for the paper review this morning.